Become a powerful role model in 3 minutes a day. Hey, my dear, I am leadership development coach Kathy Archer and author of best-selling book, Mastering Confidence. If you are like many of the women that I work with, you might have hit some point in your career where you've been feeling in over your head and wondering if you have what it takes to lead. In my courses and in my coaching and in my book, I give you both the inner and outer tools to restore your lost confidence so that you can move from surviving to thriving in both your leadership and your life. Today, we're talking about how you can become a powerful role model for your staff in 3 minutes a day. Before we get there, I'm going to share this broadcast into my Confident Women Leaders group. I am hoping that you are in that group. And the question I have for you today, while I am getting my internet on my phone to load today's video, which it doesn't seem to want to do. While I'm getting this ready to load, what I want to know from you today is, have you joined the challenge next week? So next week in our Confident Women Leaders group, we are looking at, oh, here it is, 2 seconds, let me share. Share in a group. Share in Confident Women Leaders group. Posting, posted, ready to roll. We are looking at strengthening our community. It's important that women leaders have a network of people that they can lean into. And the higher you go in leadership, honestly, the less support you have. You're not capable, you shouldn't be talking to your admin support about your boss. You shouldn't be talking to your coworkers or the people you supervise about the admin support or about your board chair. There just isn't the network for you to lean into and get the support you need to vent, to ask questions, to be a little bit get some of that mentorship, to find other resources. And that's what Confident Women Leaders group is about. So in that group this week, we want to strengthen, or this coming week, we want to strengthen our network and our relationships. So we're doing a challenge where we're talking about 4 topics. Supervision and leadership is one. Confidence is the second one. Work-life balance is the third one. And then the fourth one, we're talking about emotional women, either yourself or the women you work with. And we're going to have a conversation about those so that we can strengthen our community, get to know each other better, share some resources. So the question I have, if you're watching this now or on the replay, is, have you joined the challenge? And if not, I've put the link for Confident Women Leaders in the notes. Join the group, join the challenge, and we'll get rolling on that. Okay, back to today's topic at hand. Become a powerful role model in 3 minutes a day. So I want to go back and talk about what I've been talking about the last couple of weeks. I've been talking about your conduct and your character and how role modeling fits in there. Conduct is how you behave. It's how you act. It's how you show up every day. Your character is the unique set of traits that you have based on your conduct. And so it's not just what you want to be like and how you identify yourself as a leader or as an individual. It's actually what other people see based on your behaviors every day, in good times and bad. And that character really influences how you lead, the impact you have on the team you supervise. And it boils down to role modeling in some ways, where we're looking at, well, how do you show up day after day after day? What is your team seeing? It's the same as in parenting. If you show up every day and you're, have anger issues, or conversely, you are the type of person who is avoiding conflict all the time, what do you think your kids are learning, right? And so it's the same in organizations. How the leader shows up, their day-to-day character, their conduct, their behaviors, the way they interact with other people, how they handle work-life balance, how they handle conflict. All of that stuff impacts the team. And it either grows the team in that way so that they're following you, or they push away from it, just like kids do, right? They either say, that's not how I'm going to be completely opposite. But what we want to do as leaders is start to look at how our conduct, how our behavior, how our character is impacting our team. And so we want to talk about that role modeling piece. Before we get there, I have tons of notes today, so I want to try and make sure that I've got this all connected to all the stuff we've been talking about over the last few weeks. and months, because what I want to talk about for a minute is this whole surviving to thriving continuum. So I said at the beginning, many women hit that point where you feel like you're in over your head and you're barely surviving. You are hanging on, you're about to drop, a ball. You're always worried that you're going to mess things up. Day after day, you just get home and you're exhausted. That's that survival mode. And many of us are hanging out in there. I would ask, how was your day? And you're like, I just got by. One of my clients said to me the other day, limping along. It's that I'm just barely able to get through my days. That's survival mode. Where we want to move to through growth and development and intentional change is to thriving, where we come to work and we're engaged and we are enjoying what we're doing. We're feeling like we're making an impact. We're using our full skills. We're reaching our potential. And so if you want to move from survival mode to thriving, let's take a minute and look at those two places from the perspective of your employees. In survival mode, if you are barely hanging on, if you are overwhelmed, if you are ready to drop balls all the time, if you're not very happy with your job, likely what's happening in your organization is your employees aren't very happy to be there either. They are probably barely just doing enough to get by. There's probably a toxic work environment, or what I call a tolerable work environment, where it's like, whatever, it's a job. And that whatever attitude prevails, across the board. You go to a staff meeting and everybody just shows up and nobody puts their hand up to, offer to help with a project. And you kind of got to push and nudge people to get their paperwork done. And there's no enthusiasm. And that's that kind of surviving or thriving or tolerating kind of place. Probably not the type of employees you want. What you'd like to have is when they are also thriving. So they're engaged, the culture is warm and connected, and your employees are reaching their full potential. So if you want to move yourself and your employees from surviving to thriving, you need to be more intentional about it. You need to be really thinking about, how am I impacting my team? I'm the leader. Whether you are a titled leader or not, we all have the ability to lead. And so I have to come back to this sometimes, because I think some of you who are watching will say, but there's a boss above me, or I don't have the title. We all can lead. In fact, we all should be leading. That means if you're sitting and you aren't the one running the meeting, but you're sitting in a chair and the leader's asking for volunteers, put your hand up. If you're not happy with the way things are going, what can you do? And that's about taking that responsibility. We often play victim. We often sit back and we complain about our organization. We complain about our staff. We complain about our boss. We wait for somebody to give us the opportunity to grow or develop. We wait for somebody else to change their behavior. We are constantly in that place of poor me. I can't do anything because nobody wants to work with me. Nobody's listening. Nobody's being, volunteering to help out. Nobody's taking responsibility for their own work. But what are you doing? And that's what I want to talk about today, is that if you want the change in your organization, and if you want the change in your experience, you are the one that has to start the ball rolling. And that means taking that responsibility. Be responsible. Rather than playing victim and waiting for somebody else to change, somebody else to give you the opportunity, the month to flip over on the calendar, whatever you're waiting for, stop waiting. Take responsibility today. Start to look at the impact you're having on your team, and is that the impact you want? And if it's not the impact you want, if your team is not performing in the way that you want them to perform, look in the mirror and say, how am I showing up every day? What's my behavior like? What's my conduct like? How would they describe my character? And is it the character that's going to get us all in the direction we want to go? And if not, it's time to really start thinking about that. So I wanted to run over some of the character traits of effective leaders. So as I'm reading these, think about yourself and think about your team. Are these things that you are emulating? Are these things that you are role modeling for your staff? Are they doing it? Are these some of the things that maybe you want your staff to do more of or be like more of, if that's the right grammar, probably not. And then start to think about, so what would I have to do to change that? How would my behavior have to change to have that impact? So, character traits of effective leaders. They're in integrity, meaning that they have a list of values they espouse to, and they live that list every day. They have morals and ethics, and they show up that way. So if they say that I'm an honest person, do they kind of fudge the figures on, the reports every month? They're not in integrity. If you say, I am going to, really spend time with each of the team players this month, I know I've been really busy and I haven't really had much time to focus on you, and then you don't, that's not in integrity. If you say that your values are family and you're really, supporting your staff about being connected to family, have you neglected your family lately? Have you forgot to go home for supper every day this week? That's not in integrity. And that is the number one trait people are looking for in their leaders, is that they show a level of integrity. When you say something, you mean it and you do it. So that's integrity. Confident. Character traits of effective leaders is that they're confident. They show up knowing they can handle things, or knowing that they have the ability to sort things out, trusting the team around them, trusting their abilities, trusting they're able to do it, and showing up with a level of confidence. If you are wishy-washy, if you are hesitant, if you're doubtful, people aren't going to respect you. They're not going to also then feel confident. If you want your team to feel confident and say, yes, I'll go to that meeting and I'll speak about whatever the topic is, or yes, I think I'm ready to move up to that position, or I'll take on that piece of training. If you want them to have a level of confidence, you too need to display confidence. Effective leaders are self-aware, meaning they start to pay attention to their thoughts, their body reaction, all of that stuff. They have emotional intelligence and social intelligence. And let me tell you, that takes work. You've got to start to slow down and get connected to what you're feeling, what's going on in the room, what's happening. You have to be really self-aware if you want to be composed, which is another character trait of effective leaders. Effective leaders have the ability, when the things get heated up in a discussion, to not lose it. They have the ability to handle and manage their emotions when they get triggered. They have the ability to run a staff meeting when there's two other people in the room that are, in conflict. That's that composure, and that's another trait that's important to effective leaders. Effective leaders are optimistic. They're hopeful. They know that tomorrow will be a better day than today, perhaps. And again, if you think about some of the language that we use in conversation with our team, somebody says, how are you? Yeah, I'm getting by. It's good. That's not hopeful. When somebody says, how you doing? You're like, you know what? Today's a tough day, but we're going to get through it. And tomorrow we're going to do this, or this is going to happen, or I know that we'll figure this out. That's hopeful. Optimistic leaders are decisive. They are able to make decisions. If you get a, that's not the right thing. If you get a decision that you have to make and you hold on to it and you delay and you're kind of wishy-washy and you put it off and you mumble, that's not decisive. Decisive leader takes the challenge in hand, says, you know what? There's no right way. I'm going to choose what I think is the best way. Might not work perfectly, but we're going to get behind this decision and move forward. That's decisiveness. Effective leaders are courageous. Not everything is easy in leadership. And so sometimes they have to be brave and make decisions, or step into conversations or contracts, or do something that's outside of their comfort zone. They're courageous. Effective leaders develop people. They mentor. They are motivating. They're inspiring. They help team players reach their full potential, which means they've also looked at their own full potential and are challenging themselves to reach it. Effective leaders are strategic. They are able to kind of see out there in the bigger picture, and they see a wider vision, and they can see how what they're doing today is connected and going to help them move towards that vision. Effective leaders are visionary. Effective leaders challenge assumptions. You know that old adage, it's the way we've always done it. An effective leader says, maybe it is the way we've always done it, but is there a better way or a different way or a way that might be more streamlined or that would make more sense or that would get us a different result that we're looking for? So they challenge assumptions. Let me see if I've missed any as I've been babbling away here. And they don't avoid conflict, right? That's an incredibly important part of leadership, is that you don't avoid those hard conversations. They inevitably happen, but you don't always walk away from them or shy away from them. That doesn't mean you're aggressive and come in and say, we got to figure this out right now. But it means that you're coming back to self-aware. You're aware that there's a conflict. You step into it courageously, one of those other traits. You're socially aware, so you're picking up on what's going on around on them. And so it's all of these traits combined that create your unique character. How you conduct yourself every day is how you is the character you have. And the thing is, what we're talking about today is that you are also then role modeling that for your team. And so when you are thinking about, so today's topic is how do you role model strongly for your team in 3 minutes a day? The first thing is you have to be more intentional about it. What's the impact I want to have on my team? What are the things that I want my team to be developing? So that's the first step. Take that responsibility, step back and say, what is it that my team is developing? Or what do I want them to develop? And then the second step is to say, how do I role model that for them? So let's say that you want your staff to be more confident. How do you show up as a more confident leader? What do you need to do to believe in yourself, have more faith in yourself, feel more confident when you're speaking or engaged in a conversation or taking on a new task? If you want your staff to be more supportive of each other, you want them to, cover shifts perhaps, or help somebody out when somebody's busy, or just, tune in when somebody's having a bad day. What do you need to do that for your staff? How do you role model that for your staff? Well, it probably means that when you are, interacting with other people, you're putting down your phone, you're putting down your to-do list that you kind of, even if it's a imaginary to-do list in your hand, people see you coming a mile away. When you walk into a room and you're like, all busy and you've got this list and you're ready to roll, people don't feel connected. If you can't put a smile on your face, let go of that business-like, boss-like face, which many of us don't even realize we have, it's hard to connect with other people. What they see is task-oriented. They do not feel that you are connecting with them as a person. What they feel is you are another number. They're giving you a task to do. They are assigning something, and they might say, how are you doing? But you cannot, or you feel that they're not really there. You feel like they're just doing it as if it's another tick box on their agenda. I need to ask Cindy how she's doing today. Tick, did it, done. That's not connected. And if you are role modeling that for your staff, that's how they're showing up as well. They are walking into their program site, into their office, into their team, and they're showing up as a business person, ticking off their tick boxes, not really connecting to other people. So if you want them to do that, you have to step back and say, what do I have to do to be that person? Perhaps that's, again, consciously setting your daytime or your phone aside, taking a deep breath, reconnecting to your heart, these people, why you care about them, what's important about them, what you love about them, and then stepping in and looking them in the eye and saying, how are you doing today? Right? That eye contact is what we avoid when we are focused on to-do lists. That connection is something we miss so often. And if you want to build the culture in your team that has that level of connection with each other, you need to start the process yourself. You need to slow down and reconnect to your body. Remember, that's one of the other traits of strong leaders is self-aware. Reconnect to what's going on for you. You're going to role model that for them. And then the third step you've got to do, so the first one is identify what you want your staff to do. Second one is figure out how you role model it yourself. The third step is to measure it. You have to pay attention to it. It can't be something you set aside today and you go, I'm going to do more of this. and not actually do anything with that, because it's just like eating healthy and exercising and going to the gym and, you know, all of those things we mean to do. If we don't actually step up to the plate and do them, we're not going to change anything. And so you have to measure this. If you're trying to lose weight, you measure yourself by the weigh scales or the string around your waist every day, or at least by how tight the pants fit. You measure it. If you are trying to save money, you have some spreadsheet that shows you, or you're looking at your bank accounts to see that you're saving money. If you're saving for retirement, you get a little printout every quarter to show how much you've got. We have to measure what we're doing. And we often forget that when we're talking about soft skills, that we still have to measure them. We have to indicate, am I doing this? How am I doing it? And how am I doing on it? So I'm going back to last week's guide sheet that I did, which is your 5-day conduct challenge. So for 5 days, I want you to just make a note in your journal. I'd love for you to have a journal, in your day timer, on a piece of scrap paper, on a file on your computer, wherever. But for 5 days, I want you to answer these 3 questions. And if you go get the guide sheet, this is a cute little printout that you can do and pop it onto your bulletin board, or pop it into your journal, or into your day timer, wherever you're doing this. And these are the 3 questions I want you to ask. What did I role model for my team today? What lessons did my team learn via my conduct today? And what have I done to help my team reach their full potential? So if you are wanting to role model this for your team and be a better role model, you need to be more intentional about it. Answer these 3 questions every day for 5 days. That's your measure. Was I engaged in this? Was I conscious about this? Was I being intentional about this? What impact did it have? And again, pick 1 or 2 or 3 traits that you want to work on for a week. 1 is probably a good idea. And be really clear. What am I doing with this? How am I interacting with this? If you have any questions, pop them in now, whether you're on live or watching the replay. I always come back and answer questions. So again, you can get this cute little printout in the notes, I think they're on the side, so that you can have these 3 questions ready for you. Then what I really, 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 really want you to do, because trust me, you will forget this if you don't do this. Either set a timer on your phone for 5 days, or in your agenda, put a timer or an appointment. I mean, this is 3 minutes, but I still want this scheduled in. You must schedule this in. You must remind yourself to do this, because trust me, if you don't, you will forget. Good intentions, that's it. It's all it is. The action, the actual behavior of doing this is what makes the difference. If you don't do this piece, you are probably going to forget, and you are not going to have the impact you desire. And you're going to stay stuck in that survival or tolerating place, and your team's going to stay stuck there. If you want to feel the changes, you have to do the work. You must do the work. And I'm not talking hours and hours. Tiny little things, you know, just woven into your day make an incredible difference. And that's what I'm asking you to do today. So go grab the guide sheet. It's in the notes. Print it off. Schedule it into your day timer, or set a timer on your phone, and really look at what are the 1, 2, or 3 traits that you want to work on, so that you are growing them also in your employees, and then chart those for 5 days. How are you doing with that? How did you show up demonstrating that? And what was the impact you had on your staff? Jean asked a question. How to measure soft skills? Use the guide. Yes, thanks, Jean. Yeah, I think if we don't measure soft skills, they won't get done either. And it's hard to measure them. Sometimes one of the measures that I will tell my clients to use is just gauge yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How compassionate was I today with my employees? 1, 5, 7, right? Just do that for a few days. That alone is just your gut instinct, but it's still a measure. It's still important for you to do that. You can kind of, you know, indicate things like, I was aware of it, at least. Awareness is the first key, right? You can't decide to quit smoking or change your eating habits or have a better marriage if you aren't first aware that, oh, there's something going on here and I need to fix it. So that simple awareness is sometimes the very first thing that you need to do to start that process. So yeah, measuring soft skills, not an easy venture, but something you need to do. Okay, so one quick reminder, this is your challenge to start to role model this better. If you are not in the Confident Women Leaders group, come join it. If you are in there, or if you are just joining, make sure that you join us for the challenge next week, where we are strengthening our online community. So there's an event there. Just pop into the event. There's 4 categories. Join one of the conversations. We are going to start that on Sunday. Just a little conversation to start engaging with the other people in the group, because here's the thing. As we advance in leadership, we lose supports. We lose those people around us that are safe to talk to. As you advance in leadership, your boss above you, whoever that is, gets busier and has less time for you. There isn't a network of people for you to talk to lean into, to get mentored, to get supports, to just say, oh my God, I had a crappy day. Or to say, hey, where can I get some resources on this? That's what Confident Women Leaders Group is all about. But we need to strengthen our ties. Just like in any other organization, community, or group, what you put in is what you get out. So if we want to grow this network so that we can lean in, we need to start interacting with each other. That's what the challenge is all about. So make sure you go and join that. I think that's it for today. I have so many things going on in my head right now, all these notes. I want to make sure that I caught everything. But here's the bottom line for you. You show up every day, and you can be more intentional about that or less intentional about that. But the more intentional you are about how you show up, the better impact you're going to have on your team and the people around you and your own life. When you shift that impact that you have more intentionally, you are going to move from that survival place where you just, feel like you're stuck, where you're not happy, where things are kind of muddied and sometimes toxic. If you want to get out of there and move to that place where you're thriving more and the people around you thriving more, be more intentional. Do the work. Take responsibility. All of that matters. You will, trust me, when you take that time to be responsible, to take ownership for the change in your life, to create the experience at work you want, the relationships at work you want, and that you want in life, you, my dear, will move from surviving to thriving in both your leadership and life. Go make the rest of your day awesome, and I will see you inside Confident Women Leaders.